regarding EL Guide, or another announcement on orientation hours that we're going to talk about. Players. I'm sharing, so I can't tell how many people we have. Let me see. I'll give it just another minute or so. Came on and went off. What do you think? Think we should go ahead and get started? Okay. Now, what's going to happen, everybody, is I'm going to present something on the screen. There'll be a question. And each of the answers will be a different color. And what's going to show up on your phone are just those colors. And you get to the answer choice that you want to make, you push that color on your cell phone. First one, here we go. It's also limited to, I think I set it at 20 seconds, so see how fast you can be. Here we go. The color that you think matches the answer, the answer. Going. All the above documentation for qualifications in PD includes, but not limited to, a certificate of completion generated by the portal, agenda that includes the number of PD hours, a sign-in sheet, and other things. So terrific. Good job, guys. Let's go to the next one. You're in the lead. Here's a question. Question, I have to say, staff hired on or after January 1 of the program year only required to have half of the 15 hours. This was a trick question, so the majority of you got this correct. That is false. They only have to have half of the PD hours. Okay, go. Tiff, pull the lead. I'm really proud of you guys. This is great. Okay, on. Lead. PDers must also not be the program manager. That's why we chose red and gold. These two are correct. PD coordinators don't hire new teachers. So they coordinate the planning and the implementation as directed if they're on a TAP with their program director, but also must not be the program director. Tam, lead. Here we go. Question 5. Okay. Additional documentation may include an approved exemption and proof of educational qualifications. That's both. The correct answer is green. Here we go. Get this one. I think 26 folks, so I'm going to go ahead and hit skip. Okay. Coordinator who is dedicated to at least 20% full-time, not 50, 20% full-time. In the guides. Here we go. Tam in the lead. Question 7. Wow. Okay. Volunteers must have, at the minimum, a bachelor's degree. 2 and half of you say false. The answer is true. And you guys are chatting. I can't see the chat pod, so hopefully Beth can let me know. Good. 2. Instructors and volunteers must divide their 15 hours by, at a minimum, 3 and then 6 in the content area. Volunteer instructors, they're working with students. Tam, still in the lead. Question 9.
Comments in the chat pod, but we can wait until the game's complete and go back to them.
I can get this one. The PD hours obtained must be maintained. Good. Tammy, still in the lead. What's for Tammy? Navigators and test proctors must have 6 hours of PD related to their primary job duties. What I should have done is looked at the manual to show you that particular answer. I have someone else presenting on the agenda. I'm going to go back and find that to show you, because that one we need to make sure we clear up. Navigators. All right, let's move on. Pulling in the lead. Some people saying they work with the trained PD specialist, which is true. We've got some people say that they work with the program director, and that's true. But add those together, and the answer is green. So you got it right, but just don't forget that you can also work with the program director and the trained PD specialist, and in some cases, the program support specialist. Tammy, last question. Career names data entry clerks are not required to have a master's degree. That is true. True. Okay. Who won? Tammy! Yay, Tammy! Okay, let me close sharing my screen. To address some of these questions.
I think we have a couple of questions that we should probably go back to, and I don't know if John or Lori is on.
John is, and I've got my guide open.
So the first question is, but if you have the P-Portal certificate, you don't need the other pieces of, this is in reference to documentation, professional development.
What it says in the guide on page 58 is documentation for qualifications in PD maintained in the personnel file includes a certificate, a copy of the sign-in sheet, an agenda that includes, and we can get that from John or Laura. I don't think you have to have all of them, but you at least need to have one of them. Is that correct, John or Lori? You might, John.
They're okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
If you have the PD portal certificate, you don't need the other pieces. The sign-in sheet, what were the other three that it...
A certificate of completion by the portal, a copy of the sign-in sheet, an agenda, handouts, and then the approved exemptions.
You may need more documentation. If not, if you don't have the certificate, you would need the sign-in sheet, possibly some description of the training showing the hours and the content of the training.
A trick question, I guess. If you guys got the impression that you had to have all of them, I think I just wrote it as they include, but not limited to the following. But it, as John said, you could just have the certificate of completion. But you got your agendas back anyway. Let's see, Beth, what else?
Then another question, and I'm trying to remember exactly what this one was in reference to, but it was one of the multiple choice, and you said that somebody may actually be hiring teachers if they had coordinator responsibility. Is that
really?
To Harry, that in reference to PD coordinator?
Here. You don't hear you. There we are now.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
All right. No, so, sometimes a P coordinator, maybe they're 20% or 30 or 50% P coordinator, but they might also be like a site coordinator or a sub-provider. The HGAC consortium director couldn't be the PD coordinator, but a site director is like someone who does hire teachers. It could be a mixed bag if you're part PD coordinator and you're part a site coordinator or a service provider coordinator or something like that.
Okay. Well, I did that. I'll have to look that up then. Well, I apologize.
No.
Okay. What else we have?
So then we have a couple of comments about a volunteer and the qualifications of a volunteer. I think this is in reference to having the bachelor's degree. I think there's a clarification that would be a volunteer that is serving in an instructional role.
Right, that's what, yeah. It is the volunteers are working with students. Yeah, what we mentioned.
And then Tiffany had found the reference to Career Navigators is on page 59 of the guide if you need to go back and look at that.
Auxiliary positions may include career navigators, Teams data entry staff, and test proctors. Right. Staff positions must have at least a high school diploma or high school equivalency. Key hours, they must have 3 hours of PD related to their job duties, only 3 hours, not 6, as in the question. But they have to have a minimum of of 3. Too many trick questions in here. I get anxious. I'll have to read that for next time. Is that it? Let's look at, I thought lit was the same as content. From looking at Reese's, I thought lit was the same as content hours. Are predetermined by the state. 6 hours predetermined by the programs, determined by the programs. Yes, correct. You've got to have at least 3 hours of PAL, 3 hours of lit. The remaining hours are at the discretion of the program.
So long as they
or in their content area, yeah.
They have to do with the goals and objectives of the program. So
right.
So P and bloodborne pathogens would not. Yeah.
Yes, you can close the Kahoot, Debbie. Okay. All right, let's move on. I thought a little bit more fun than that. I didn't mean to frustrate all of you, but I do appreciate those of you who had some time to look through the guide. I think it's really important as we start this new school year off. Announcement. So we were on the call this morning with Anson and the pro directors, and Glenda has been working with Mahalia on some Teams technical assistance tutorials. They've shared with us that 50% of the calls that they get are folks asking for Teams questions and Teams help. So Mahalia worked really hard to create these tutorials, and Glenda has also worked hard to getting them ready to go into the portal. So I'm going to ask Beth if she can give Glenda the ball, and Glenda can talk about the Teams tutorials and give you a little demo of how you can find them. And then if you wouldn't mind, please share this with your program directors, because we mentioned it today's call, and you might want to show them where it is.
Tacoma, you have your hand up. Do you need us? Hands up. No. Okay. Click it. Put it back down. Paula, Lorraine, do you have a question? Get too far along here. Sorry, didn't say which. Lorraine. Smith? Johnson, you guys have questions? These have questions. Just okay. Teams technical assistance tutorials. These are very short video lessons on different topics relating to Teams, and they're in the portal. They're not set up in curriculum like we normally do for that get PD credit. They are set up in a library, so I want to show you how you're going to find a library. Slow motion if I'm going too fast, or you need to see it again. So I'm in New Teacher 1's. I figured it'd be better to do it with somebody that's not me. I'll get that out of the way. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to put Teams. When I come to the global search here, I'm going to select training. And this building icon that looks like a library, because that's the icon for the library. Find the Technical Assistance Library. You can do search from there or from your home screen like you normally do. Training, and just make sure that you select the library, and that gets you to the library. Once you found it, click on it and record it.
Difference between a library and curriculum?
The difference is going to be curriculum you're going to get PD credit for one. And the reason you don't get PD credit for a library is because it's a resource. And so the library never closes. It's a 24/7 library, and you can go back and revisit those modules as many times as you want. You can search them. They're not restricted. As if you've been on some of the online video courses, notice that you can't fast forward. You can fast forward, back up, do whatever you want to do. So that's why we're using the library instead of a curriculum. Because what happens when the curriculum is finished, it goes to your completed section. People forget where that is, or they don't know how to relaunch it once it's gone into that. I do want you to notice that rather than say launch or open curriculum, it actually says manage. So we're going to manage libraries, but it's that same rule about clicking big blue buttons, usually safe. Except that once you get into the library, there are no big blue buttons, but there are blue words, and that's what we're going to click on. So you see right here, it's a little bigger just so you can see the names. Ones are already done. So there's a section called Teams Basics that has the order of operations and roles and access. Is the data entry series that we're working right now. So far, providers, sites, Part 1, staff Part 2. Actually doing the closed captioning for the data entry classes right now. Once you have which one you need to look at, you're going to activate it. And then still, of course, it's going to have a pop-up block come up in a pop-up window. So you need to make sure that your pop-ups are turned to be allowed from twccsod.com. So it comes up a little X up here. This is Chrome, but depending on which browser you're using, just go ahead and make sure that your pop-ups are allowed. What's not allowed is the thing spins and spins and spins and never stops. One of the things that you're going to notice is that I misspelled rinse, I'll fix that later, is that you have a menu on the left, which we don't normally do. And the reason that we have put that there is so that you can click on Need to See. So if you've seen the whole thing and you don't remember how to do a specific thing, you can find here in the menu and go straight to that. You can also search for it. So if you're not sure what you need to know site details, you can actually filter it out for just what you're looking for. You can also, again, drag in this this so that you have to watch the whole slide if there's something in that slide you need to watch. You have your closed captioning ability here. So if you have doing data entry who needs the closed captions, they can turn them on and off with this icon here on the left. On most of them, I've also put the team reference guide link. Get straight to there if you need it. I would say somebody the other day didn't know you can also use Control F in the PDF fairly quickly. Side hint. All right, and if there are any other pertinent documents, for example, in the entry staff, let me go into Part 1 here. The EAL rules chapter 805 are here. Be talking about what we were just talking about in the requirements training. So I've linked it here so that you can get straight to it without having to go out and search for it. It's on the site, Tiffany. I'm happy to put that in the chat for you so you can later. Let me just capture that and we can put that in the chat. And you can bookmark mark that if you would like it. I had asked, the reason I did it that way is if they make updates to the reference guide or to the rules, the link will not change even though the document does. So that's why I'm using that link inside of the course. That's it. Now, as far as if an administrator or you want to know if someone has completed or watched one of these, you can actually look and see when this changes to completed. So I'm going to log out, log in as me. Just 1 second. Does anybody have any other questions, or did I miss any questions?
Go ahead and talk while you're pulling that up, my little section on the Teams overview, since we're on Teams anyway. Just to give you
I'm here. Just let me speak. That's fine, but actually here, I just turned it off so they didn't see me sign in. I didn't want anybody seeing my typing.
Oh, you wanted some? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Somebody had completed what it looks like. So if somebody wants to know, manage, you'll be able to do this looking at your person's transcript, and you'll be able to see what's in progress, what's completed, what's not activated pretty easily under this section. And that's it. So you're on, Deb. Thank you.
Questions for Glenda? The other going to mention is because there were some changes in Teams with this new school year, that we've gone into the online module that we did of Teams Overview and made those corrections and additions and taken out some things as well. So in the portal now, it's titled 2017 Teams Overview. The other one has been deactivated, except for the folks I think that still had it on their transcript. But the new one is 2017 Teams Overview, and you just have to go into the portal and search for it, 2017 Teams Overview. It's an hour module. Linda, back to you. So Linda's going to talk a little bit about hour that we've been talking about for the last year, I guess. Glenda? Sorry, Beth. I keep forgetting you're the host.
All right, so we did one at the beginning of this this program year, well, actually just this past month, for people who did not know how to have an account. And what we found was who came to that actual hour were folks who just had questions about the portal. And so we had been thinking about having a Genius Hour, which is what Apple calls their little help desk times. And I've just decided to go ahead and put it on the calendar the second Thursday of every month. I will have some tips and tricks. I'll show you what's new in the portal, but I'll also be available, or Deb will be available, one of us will be available to answer your questions or your staff members' questions about how to do certain things in the portal. This is actually geared for the instructors more so than for guys, but we want to let you know that it's actually on the inside the PD portal. They can register for it just like they would for a Tech and Tell, going to the events calendar and signing up for it. And if they have questions to send me in advance, that's fine. Of course, we're always happy to answer your questions about the PD portal. But if they just want to get a little bit more into what you can do as far as building your personal learning community with other teachers across the state, getting into the Connect communities, giving people feedback, those different kinds of things, that's what that hour is going to be about.
About our upcoming Genius Hour. Okay, on. Beth, you wanted to talk about the PDCIP, which is due October 15th.
And I might call on John if he's still on the webinar with us. But the programs do have a deliverable of a revision to the professional development CIP that is a deliverable due on October 15th of the year. This is not be as far as we know, it's not going to be a new form. It's just going to be going back and looking at the PDCIP that you worked on with your specialist in June of last year and making some updates to that document. Do you have any additional guidance that you want to from TWC on that?
Well, we'll be sending out some brief guidance in a few days when we the program said this is a deliverable. But we're planning, as Beth said, this is an update. We're planning for you to look at the CIP that you turned in mid-June and look and see if there are any gaps. You know, back on it, I see in our not so wise planning, we asked for the CIP in mid-June, and then a week later we brought everyone together and changed a lot of the procedures for teams and other things. So we're concerned that that there's a need for training that may not have gotten into your CIP because you didn't know about those things. So we're hoping that you'll look at it, update it, and give it to us. We're not expecting to be a project that requires hours and hours of time. So that's all I have to say.
Are there any about that at this point?
Hand up. Question? You can ask yourself. Up from last time. Well, if you have a question, we'll have other question opportunities further in. We're headed to move forward. Announcements that are coming up. We've had some issues with last-minute training requests, and we wanted just to remind you guys that we do have some timelines that we need to try and follow so we can get materials to the location in an expeditious manner, and want to make sure we have enough materials for participants. So remember, when you're trying to schedule a training with your PD specialist, please try and stick to that 15 business days for us to process. It's not fair to the trainer when we sent out, say, 15 handouts because 15 people have registered, and 20 people show up because we're trying to meet late training deadline to get a training up for you. So please do your best to try and get your training scheduled far enough in advance that we can send the materials, notify the trainers, just like an accordion effect. It's not just one person working on this. There's a whole little back-end operation that happens every time we schedule and coordinate a training for you. So we would appreciate that. Secondly, when you are requesting that we customize some training or update some training, this takes some time for us because we have other responsibilities as far as coordinating training for you and doing some data review. So please, we try to give us at least 6 weeks to actually do that content development. We can certainly do it for you, but we do need time to do that. I'm underneath these, but there's a content standard coaches webinar tomorrow. Beth, I don't know if there's a particular time that you want to mention.
Particular webinar is going to be at 4 p.m. They need to go, if you have coaches that have not already done so, registration is up in the PD portal for that webinar. They will be accessing the webinar through the portal. We're recording it, so if there's someone that is unable to be there, they will have an opportunity to go back and view it.
Okay. Thank you. Reminds me, so we had Glenda do a demo, and we're recording this. We're going to grab that section of this recording, and we'll put it up in the PD portal and under the PD coordinators community of practice. We'll probably also send the link out to program directors so they can also see the video recording of the demonstration. Happy to report that we have secured a date for the third annual Technology and Distance Learning Symposium. Thank you to Region 20 for hosting us again next year. It's February 16th. It's on a Friday. We have an earlier question asking if PD credit is given. Certainly, we give stickers out like we do at other conferences, so PD credit is given at the annual Technology and Distance Learning Symposium. And just a reminder to you that COABE is next year in March 25th through the 28th in Phoenix. That's coming up, and I know that Anson sent out an email encouraging as many of us to attend as possible. I know the team is all going to submit a presentation that we hope will be accepted, so we can really highlight what's the good stuff going on in Texas. One we learned when we were at the Summer Institute in June was, for the weren't there was a gasp in the room when Carrie announced this, and that's why we've got John on the call. We're all sitting here with helmets on, so you don't bash us in the head. But Antonio again at Region 20. Orientation hours are no longer going to count for direct contact hours. I had new lips today. Count those, especially when we were, at once. But there's a section now that and John, you can expand on this if you don't mind. There's a section in TEAS now that is still up or not. This is the slide from the summer. I know Carrie said they would be removing the functionality. I don't know if it's already removed, but do not put your orientation hours direct contact hours. John, you want to on that?
As far as I know, it has not been removed, so there is a possibility that you will enter the orientation hours there, but if you do, we'll ask you to take them out. They won't be counted, or if you do, they won't be counted in days. We are asking you to put the note regarding the orientation logs in the training services box, so that you have a documentation in Teams that you've at least the minimum 3 hours. On our side, the program specialists are pulling up Table 4s, the sub-reports for Table 4s, and for the participant rosters, and scanning them to see if programs have entered orientation hours there.
Can you speak up just a little bit? People are having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And we're looking at the Teams reports which show orientation hours, and if we see them, there will be get with you to ask you to do that, or to not record the hours in that screen to do it.
Does anybody have any questions about this? We're talking about this, I don't know, was it Tuesday, Monday, about, some of these hours are really just instructional hours, not part of orientation.
There are solutions here that haven't really been articulated very well yet, and we anticipate that some orientation activities used to be done as part of the call type orientation will be done after a student is placed into a class, so you can count that time as direct hours. So programs may need to rethink the way they do orientation, and some of those activities might actually part and legitimately part of direct instruction.
Question from Risa. Do we need to ask partners to remove them if they've put them there?
You should ask them to remove them if they put them there.
Seeing if anybody else has a question or their hand raised while we have John on. Go ahead.
I was just saying, Tiffany's asking that they've been saying they've been putting their orientation hours in the career and training hours. Is that correct?
Me for just one moment here. I'm sorry, it just escaped me where they go. They go under the career services part of Teams, and dialog box there where you indicate them there.
So that career training services, I think that's what
yes.
He's talking about. Okay, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I have a question from Lorraine. Excuse me. Could instructors have two separate sign sheets, one to capture orientation hours and then another to capture instruction such as goal setting? Advise.
Well, direct hours instruction hours will only be able to be counted after a student is enrolled in a class. You have whatever intake, the assessment that you do for new students, and then them in class, and then all hours after that would be counted as direct hours or private hours if they were doing distance.
Our question is still a 3-hour minimum requirement?
Yes, it's still a minimum 3-hour requirement.
Aren't any other questions? I believe that ends our webinar for today. Does anybody have any other questions before we go?
This is Denise Orlando.
Hey, Denise.
I have one question, and I don't know if anybody else has encountered this, but it's about who conduct assessments for trainings. I mean, I know the policy says...
Can you pick up, Denise?
Yes. The policy says that you take the initial training to be a tester, and then you refresh every 2 years. And I question, because I can't find it in writing anywhere, and I don't know if there's an actual rule, what if they have passed their test? Let's say they went 3 years and haven't taken a refresher. Do they then still take a refresher, or do they have to start over?
Wow.
Several of those, so I don't know if that's specific or not.
John, you handle that one.
Well, I don't want to answer that question on our Denise. Can you write it? Can you write the question and send us an email?
Yes. Who do you want me to send it to?
You can send it to me, and I'll route it, and then we'll respond.
Okay. Thank you.
Because it doesn't really say, I'm looking at the guide, and it doesn't really say anything pertaining to that, just that they've got to be properly trained.
Right.
Mm.
And so I got that question the other day, and they were like, what happens if they haven't refreshed? Which one?
So how did you answer it?
I said that for me, ordinarily, I don't see the rule, but for me, ordinarily, if it's been too long, I would make them start over. But that's just me personally.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, guys. I don't know.
We have a few more questions that have come in.
Sorry.
Selecting goal-setting hours in Teams for our students.
And
elaborate for us?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Somebody had mentioned earlier, I mean, about the orientation hours, but then they tagged on goal setting hours. So I was wondering, are we collecting, we have not been collecting goal setting hours, because, we're doing that with the students during their orientation, but we're not separating the hours out from their orientation hours.
Yeah, well, anything you do prior to placement into a class would be, for new students, would be considered orientation hours in the past. Hours that you do after a student starts class with direct hours. So orientation, goal setting could be an orientation activity, or it could be an instructional activity. If you want to count the hours, you need to do it in the class after students are registered in the class.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is, how do we sign up for the regional content standards meetings? Registration for those meetings will be through the PD portal. I will send out an announcement to everyone when those are ready to go. We're currently securing locations. We had one location follow through, so as soon as we get a new location for Lubbock, those will go up in the portal, and I'll let everybody know. And we have one more question. Oh, a couple more. Hang on. From Liz. Would you be able to provide guidance on how to list PD activities into teams? This was shared in the past by Federico.
What the activities that Train PD sponsors, we put in teams ourselves. So if it's a Train PD event, we're the ones who are responsible for putting it in. So it'll show up under T-Call. If it's something in the portal, it'll show up once. So, for example, if you take a course, you watch a Tech and Tell on a Thursday night, and then we repeat it, or you might the recording the next year. We only put that Tech and Tell in Teams once, and it'll start in a year. Will be the timeline. So it'll be, let's say it's Kahoot. The dates will say July 1 through June 30 or June 1 through May 31. And you get credit once for that event. So anything that Train PD does, we'll put the event, the training itself, in Teams, and then that's where you'll add your people. Does that make sense?
Hello, this is Liz. Hi, Liz. Hello, everybody. So I failed to mention that I was referring to local PD activities. I understand that anything sponsored by Train PD. And so just to ensure consistency in the way data entry is entered, how you want us to title the event, want us to include in the description, if anything, do we need to include who's presenting? That way we can document that the presenter does not earn PD hours as they're presenting. Just the kinds of things is what I was looking for.
Does anyone have?
I think we're missing Federico already.
I know.
I think that we'll just need to respond to your question to all the PD coordinators and provide that kind of guidance. So we'll have to search it, Liz, and send it out to you.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know that Lorraine had a question about, is there a minimum education requirement for a person who administers an assessment? I don't remember seeing this anywhere. I'm looking at page 59 of the AEL guide, and number 4 says aides, administrative, data entry, test proctors, and supporting staff. I don't know if it's talking about, if it is, they've got to have at least a high school diploma or equivalency. If that's a question. Disregard, found it. I guess I need to read down. Never mind. Okay, anybody have any other questions?
I have a question about if this WebEx will be available for review, and if so, when. We are recording it. We did miss the very beginning, but we are recording it, and we will post in the PD Coordinators Community of Practice as soon as it's ready.
And something else I was going to mention, now I don't remember what it was. Okay, we're going to get you guys right on time almost. If you ever have any other questions, please feel free to tell us or email John or Lori at TWC. And gosh, you do have something where you want to say something, you can't remember what it was. It's driving me nuts now. I can't remember what it is. When I remember it, I will just email it all out to the PD coordinator listserv. Me, Beth.
All right. And thank you, everyone. We'll be back and answers to those questions.
And thank John for being on. So we appreciate everything that you all do, and we hope you have a nice afternoon. Thanks so much.
Bye.